This is my 1993 Ford F-150 Lightning. An unusual truck, and I'm going to tell you a lot about them, what to look for, and about this particular truck as we go around it. So the first generation Lightning came out in 1993, and they only made it for 3 years through 95. It was only available in 3 colors, red, black, and white. Although the first year I don't think you could get white. I think it was only red and black. Black being the most popular color of all 3 years. These trucks were an answer to Chevrolet's SS454, which was a complete and utter joke in comparison. Sorry Chevy guys, but this thing will kick your butt. And at first glance it looks like it's built on a standard F-150 short bed, which it kind of is. But there are several differences. So the first major difference, of course, is going to be the engine, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's start with the undercarriage. Ford tossed the standard frame and went to the F-250 four-wheel drive frame rails and doubled them over the rear axle to give it more strength and structure. It also got front and rear anti-sway bars as standard, 17-inch wheels, which are unique to the Lightning, and take a wonderfully goofy sized tire that hardly anybody makes and costs a fortune to replace. They got Monroe shock absorbers, and also underneath a couple of other interesting things. There is somewhere an aluminum drive shaft, an extra rear leaf spring with these snubber blocks to act as traction bars, the front air dam with fog lights was also part of the package. The suspension was lowered 1 inch in the front and about 2.5 inches in the rear compared to the standard F-150. All of the trim on the truck is black, which is shared somewhat with certain rare models of the Bronco. Nothing is body color painted or chrome. The hardest parts to get, of course, are the windshield moldings, which you can see mine have a problem. That's not common, and I do have a replacement set that I picked up. The side exit exhaust is not standard, but it is a pretty popular aftermarket replacement. The factory exhaust was a true dual system, but both pipes came out the side back here behind the rear wheels. You got 2 options for a rear bumper, either the standard step bumper painted to match the truck, or this nifty tubular style bumper, which is prone to rusting out from the inside out, and they are now very hard to find. And prices have been anywhere from $600 to $1,000 for a good rear bumper. So if you find one of these that's good, snag it. There's not a whole lot optional on the Lightning. It came with the one standard engine and transmission. It got the XLT package of power windows and power door locks. Air conditioning was standard. The sliding rear window here was an option. For the interior, you got the XLT trim, but you also got these really nifty, highly adjustable Lightning bucket seats. And I gotta say something about these. These things hold up very well over age and time. This truck has 178,000 miles on it, and these seats look like they're almost brand new. You'll never see a factory bench seat look this good. As you can see here, it's got power bolster and lumbar controls. This front section here actually will pop out forward if you wanted to. One of the common problems, however, with these is the reclining mechanism. There should be a lever right in here. They break off all the time. And they are shared with the Bronco, so you might be able to find one of those from the junkyard if your truck is missing one. These trucks came with an optional floor mat that said Lightning on them. Mine does not have those because they go for stupid money. The door trim panels with kind of a aluminum trim piece at the top. And if you pull on the door pocket to close the door, you can potentially break it like the previous owner managed to accomplish on mine. The interior trim plastic is hard, and as it gets old, it gets brittle. And it's not uncommon for these A-pillar pieces to crack. When you replace these, what I suggest you do is these screws, you don't tighten them down completely tight. You leave a little room for some motion in there so that they don't split. The dashboard, the pads can crack. This one's in pretty good shape. The instrument panel is notorious for breaking over here in this corner. There's a bracket that's made into the plastic dash that cracks. I was able to repair this one with a metal bracket, but it's kind of a Rube Goldberg arrangement and not the easiest thing to fix. Standard radio would have been an AM FM or AM FM cassette. You do get cruise control. 93 does not have an airbag, 94 and 95 do. And you get a 120 mile an hour speedometer. The truck comes standard with the E40D transmission. Overdrive can be clicked on and off simply by pushing a button on the end of the shifter. This is kind of handy. All Lightnings come with the dual fuel tanks, and these can be problematic. I tend to use mine alternatively. I switch them back and forth each fill up to try to keep everything working as it should. Those gas tanks can rust out, and typically they do it from the top. So if you have a fuel smell or you're noticing gas dripping down from one of the gas tanks, it's probably got a leak on the top or around one of the straps. Replacements are available, not terribly expensive. And the other item in the interior you want to be aware of is the fog light switch, made of that rare material called unobtainium. These things change hands for $100 or more. Ridiculous, because they're pretty much only used in the Lightning. Very hard to find. You'll notice that my steering wheel has a cheesy little slip-on cover over it. The factory steering wheel's underneath, and it's a perforated leather. It's very nice, very attractive. Mine is not ripped or torn. But these steering wheels, the leather is glued on with some type of glue that when it gets warm, it melts. And the black oozes out from the little pore holes here and gets all over your hands. So that's why I have this goofy Kmart cover on the steering wheel, so my fingers don't turn black. So under the hood is the reason you buy the Ford Lightning. Well, a good reason for buying the Ford Lightning. This is buried underneath all of this electrical nonsense and a big intake is a 351 Windsor small block Ford. The Lightning engine produces 240 horsepower and 340 foot-pounds of torque, which is better than the standard 351 at 210 horsepower, or the 302 at somewhere between 185 and 205, depending on the year. This engine features a GT40 intake manifold, GT40 cylinder heads with larger valves, a flat tappet cam, stainless steel headers, and special lightweight pistons. The headers don't look sexy, but they work. The engine also features a Ford EC4 ignition system with a unique computer, which is hidden down in there, I believe. There is a test port here on the fender well, and this is an OBD1 vehicle. Your average OBD2 computer will not read this. You will need an OBD1 computer reader, which is very inexpensive to buy. You can also count the flashes, but that's kind of ridiculous and time consuming. This one's had a few replacement parts on it, as you can see. I just repaired the air conditioning for the second time. We'll talk more about that. Trucks do have power steering, and we probably can't see it, but there is actually a sort of kind of oil cooler ate into the cooling system. Oh yeah, and let's talk about the smog pump. It's got an air pump on it. You can take these off, and there is a company that makes idlers to replace that so that you can run the same serpentine belt. From the factory, you get a Positraction rear end with 410 gears. As I said, this truck has like 178,000 miles on it, and it doesn't look bad for its age. It's a Southern truck. It came out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and it's got a speck of rust on it anywhere. Now these trucks will rust. The most common area that you're going to find on this generation is over the rear wheels on the bed. They rust there all the time. You can buy patch panels, but the amount of work that they take to put on and look good isn't really worth it. I would much rather buy bed sides and have them welded on. One of the reasons you want to do that is because the fender well inside is probably also going to be rotted out and no good. You have to replace that at the same time. The radiator core supports are also known to rust along the bottom. You'll want to look at those. These trucks do have probably the dumbest headlight design I've ever come across. Trying to get these things out to replace them is the most Rube Goldberg arrangement I've ever seen for a pickup truck. It's ridiculous. These spare tire holders underneath the truck are notorious for getting rusty, as is the hardware that loves to seize up in the truck frame where it threads in. It's a good idea to loosen these every so often and spray them with penetrant or oil or something like that so that they stay functional. In the process of making this video, I noticed that my rear diff cover seems to be leaking, which is par for the course with this truck, because it seems like every fluid in this truck wants to leak. Now granted, it's a 178, 9, whatever thousand mile truck, but I've been chasing oil leaks and fluid leaks and water leaks in this thing since I've owned it, which really hampers my love of it. I've had water leaks into the cab, which I think came from the cowl. I did a video on sealing those up. It had a rear main seal that I've had replaced that still leaks. It's developed a transmission leak that I think I fixed finally by replacing the pan. I did a video about that. The coolant leaks here and there. Hose clamps never seem to be tight enough. Fortunately, knock on wood, the heater core doesn't leak. Probably because the previous owner replaced that. As you can see, this truck's not exactly shiny. It's a 1993 red model. And the 93 is the only year that didn't have clear coat on it. And most all the 93 red trucks fade to this ridiculous chalky pinkish hue of a red. It's particularly bad up here on the roof. And on the hood and cowl. These water spots just never go away. I've buffed this truck, I've waxed it. It looks good for maybe a week or two, and then it gets ugly again, even sitting in the garage all the time. My advice, don't buy a red one. As I said earlier, the computer is unique, and it's buried down underneath the dash or out in the engine bay. I can't remember how I got it out. I think I got it out from the inside. It's unique to the Lightning, and it has a bunch of capacitors in it that are known to leak when they get old. And mine was leaking when I checked it. You can buy those at a supply house for electronics. It's not that big of a deal, and solder in new ones. But it's something to be aware of, and something you probably want to do before it damages the circuit board in the computer. Because once you need a computer, good luck. Again, the wheels and tires are unique. Ford trucks have a goofy bolt pattern that doesn't seem to be very popular with a lot of other brands. These are a 275/60/17. I'm currently running Hankook Ventus tires. It originally came with Firestone Firehawks from the factory, which I don't think they make anymore. These tires are only made by 2 or 3 manufacturers in this size. They're expensive. I don't do burnouts with this truck as much as it could do them, because I don't want to be buying these stupid expensive tires all the time. Another problem you'll run into with the E4OD trans is hard shifting. There's a switch that mounts on the side of the transmission called an MLPS switch. If you replace that, that usually will fix the problem. They're not terribly expensive. They do require a little bit of setup so that the gears engage correctly. But that was an early problem that I solved with this truck. The other thing it did when I got it was detonated, pre-ignition, pinged, horrible, all the time. I tried running different gas. I investigated the entire ignition and emission system trying to find the problem. I toyed with it off and on for like a year and a half. And what it finally turned out to be was a bad distributor. You can still buy the distributor from Ford, but it has a unique gear for the special camshaft that these have in. You can't just slap the distributor in and go. You got to have the distributor gear changed over to match the cam that's in the truck. So, should you buy a 93 to 95 first gen F-150 Lightning? The one without the supercharger. Depends on what you're looking for. These trucks, when they came out, were fast. Remember that the Mustang only had 225 horsepower back in that time period. By today's standards, they're not. They can get out of their own way okay, but they aren't fast. The handling is okay. The steering is loosey-goosey. The brakes aren't spectacular. You know, they're competent, but they're not spectacular. This thing is not a sports car. As a truck, it's okay. They can be had as a relative bargain if you shop judiciously. There seems to be 3 tiers of quality and price to these things. The top level is the hermetically sealed in a plastic bag its entire life low mileage trucks, which most people aren't going to want. They're going to be stupid money. They're $25,000, $30,000 asking prices. I don't even know if they sell those trucks. I see them on eBay and bring a trailer and things like that, and I don't know that they ever sell. The next level down is probably in your $10,000 to $12,000 range for a nice show quality drivable truck. It's not going to be a trailer queen, but it's not going to be rough or anything like that. And then quickly they fall down to the garbage category where they've got rotted bedsides and all kinds of other problems. And those trucks are going to be $3,500 maybe. This one kind of falls in between that. It's probably today's value, as I'm making this, maybe $5,000 to $6,000, I would say, for the faded paint and high miles. But the rest of the truck's in really nice shape and doesn't have a spot of rust on it anywhere. So they're good for that. They're good as a truck, but they are limited. They're short beds. They're good for towing. I will give it that. It tows my race car and the trailer, no problem at all. It's probably a combined weight of 3,500 to 4,000 pounds, and it's rated for 5, so it's okay there. But it's got some unique parts on it that are hard to get. If you have a computer that goes bad, you're not going to get one. The distributor gear is unique. There's a lot of parts. Trying to modify this truck, it's speed density. You're going to have to change it over to mass airflow, which is expensive. So you buy it for what it is, and to me, you just kind of accept it and leave it alone. I got to rant here a little bit because it always cracks me up with these guys that go out and they buy these first-gen Lightnings, and then they bring them home, and they yank the motor out, and they put a Coyote in it, or a 460 in it, or something like that. And then they change the wheels and tires, and all that kind of stuff. And it cracks me up. It's like, why are you buying a Lightning if you're de-lightning it with everything that makes it a Lightning and taking it off? Well, I guess they want the bragging rights. But to me, you just wasted all that money buying a Lightning. You could have bought a regular F-150 and done the same thing. So, these guys that do this, and I'm waiting for the comments, crack me up, take a Lightning, take everything that's Lightning out of it, and then what do you have? An F-150 with a different frame and an aluminum drive shaft, whoopie-doo. But I'm going to follow that up by saying I thank these guys for doing this, because every time they ruin a stock Lightning by turning into something else, they've increased the value of my truck. So golf applause for those guys for doing that. So I'm looking forward to the hate comments in the commentary below. Go ahead and leave them. I'll enjoy reading them. Just don't use profanity. That's all I ask. So that's my take on the Lightning. It's a love-hate relationship. The truck seems to always have something wrong with it. Never anything debilitating, but just a bunch of annoying things. You know, fluid leaks and things that just are loose or squeaky or whatever. I kind of miss the older trucks, which is what I used to have, with metal dashboards and crank windows and that kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the right guy for these newer trucks, but they're a good bargain. Comparing the price of one of these to a standard F-150 in the same condition, you're not going to spend that much more for a Lightning for a driver quality one. So it's something that you should consider. So decide for yourself, but that's my take on it. Hopefully this was entertaining and somewhat helpful to you if you've been Lightning shop. If you're a Lightning owner, you'll probably hate it. I don't care. I'm a Ford guy, but I'm not going to wave the flag on everything. They're not all perfect. So leave your hate comments below, and thanks for watching the video. If you want to see some other videos about the Lightning, I did one on the cowl water leak repair. I did one on the transmission pan upgrade, and also the model kit made by AMT, how it compares to the real truck. That's a very popular video too. Please subscribe if you find these interesting. The more subscribers, the better. And look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for watching.